to News 22. I'm Bridget Duffy, and wasn't James Cornell's dramatic love story with a dolphin just heartwarming? Now, for our next segment, we're going to be sending it to Claudia Calby, live from uncharted territory of a New York State gas station. Sending it over to you, Claudia.
Thank you, Bridget. I'm here today at one of our local gas stations interviewing other gas enthusiasts about the recent opinions on gas. Let's have a look. Go. Miss for a dollar. Do you have any recent opinions on the spike in gas?
These goddamn liberals with their gas prices. If it weren't for Commie Biden, these gas prices would not be rising. If Trump was president, this would have never happened.
Oh, that's wrong. You keep that dollar. Thank you. Have a good day. Move.
Wow. Okay. Anyways, many people today have differing opinions on the recent spike in gas prices. Some blame Biden, others blame COVID, and other factors such as environmental policies. Here are some facts as to why gas prices have gone up in the past few months.
The recent Russia-Ukraine crisis has led to a change in the global oil supply, which is a key input into how oil is priced globally. The increase in price of gas, oil, and energy is due to the changing supply and demand.
According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, stated that countries that are net exporters of oil are experiencing an unprecedented double blow. A global economic contraction driven by the COVID-19 pandemic and an oil market collapse with the benchmark price for the United States crude oil. The West Texas Intermediate briefly going negative for the first time in history. Based on an oil price of USD 30 per barrel, the International Energy Agency projects that oil and gas revenues for a number of key producers will fall between 50 to 85% in 2020 compared with 2019. Yet the losses could be larger depending on future market developments. The present crisis is happening in the wider context of a structural decline in the market for fossil fuels, driven by a commitment towards decarbonization by a number of countries, as well as the wider technology changes that are gradually making renewable energies the preferred energy option. Gas prices are not the only commodity that has risen in price over the last few months. Another commonly used source of energy has gone up in price over the last year, specifically the price of electricity, which has gone up unprecedented levels. Reporting to you now from our field is our field anchor, Claudia Calby, who will be reporting from a local gas, oil, and energy whisperer, Dr. Ali Eicher, on why there has been a recent spike in electricity. Reporting to you now, Claudia.
You're Dr. Allison, the leading professional in gas, oil, and energy prices. Dr. Allison, can you tell me how much energy prices have increased in the past year?
Well, the national average increased about 8% in January from last year. However, some states' energy has increased up to 15%.
Could you tell me why energy prices have been affected in the past
That's a loaded question. There are endless possibilities as to why these prices have increased. Just look at microeconomics.
Not answering my question, I see. Moving on, do you think specifically COVID-19 has affected the energy market in particular?
Yeah, there is certainly no question that COVID has had a huge impact on every field, from medicine to teaching to practically everything. But what I think is one of the most under-talked about effects that the pandemic has had on the individuals was how it affected the market for energy prices. When prices dropped in March and April because of COVID-19 shutting down the global markets and economy, this resulted in many prices of fuels and other sources being at their lowest. But since the recent reopenings of world markets, with the combination of lack of supply and high demand of energy, with again the huge effect of the war in Ukraine and how that has impacted the market of everything from wheat exports to metal exports, the cost of energy will be expected to rise more than 50% in the year 2022. With the cost of crude oil, something that used to cost $60 a barrel to now $100 a barrel. It is to say that not only COVID-19 has had a large impact on the market of the economy, but when you combine that with the reopening of the world economy and the war in Russia and Ukraine, all of those has led to one of the largest supply shocks and pricing spirals in decades that will result in a human and economic toll for years to come.
Oh, yeah, wow. I would have preferred a simple yes or no, not a world's on fire and everyone please buy your wheat and gas right now, but super informative. Bye-bye, yep, bye, yep, you killed it. Yep, bye.
Wasn't that just fascinating? Our last special guest of the night comes all the way from Kansas. He used to be a businessman, but now he's an AP microeconomics teacher. Sending it to you, Claudia.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Burns. It's Claudia here. I'm calling for our news segment on the recent spike in gas, and I was wondering if you could explain the microeconomics behind it.
Yes, that is no problem. What do you want to know?
How would you relate the recent spike in oil, gas, and energy prices to the world of economics?
Well, first off, when looking at the concept of determinants of demand, the oil market has one of the lowest price elasticity of demand, and it means that the demand for oil is not responsive to the changes in prices. And if you look at your own life, Claudia, you still continue to drive about 7 minutes for that caramel Frappa Wappa drink from Starbucks, and you still need to drive to Saratoga for sushi because your demand for oil does not change much on the base of price, and even compared to those who are more relatively inelastic when it comes to demand of the oil, because someone will not leave the mass transit lifestyle of New York City, for example, and move out to the suburbs and buy a car when the gas prices fall. It is not practical. What could be a potential effect of the demand for oil would be in the case of when either prices of oil are either low or high, might either increase someone's demand for a road trip or airplane ticket or decrease.
Can you now relate the concept of low elasticity to that of supply?
Yeah, sure. So when looking at the concept of supply more closely, the idea of low elasticity of supply is generally less responsive to price change than that of demand. But however, a rare change is that in that case of oil, less elastic than the demand in the short run. For example, at any given time, there is usually a fixed supply of any sort of goods that usually demand must adapt to and take. For example, when we were all sent home in the beginning of 2020, we all had huge demand for the need of paper products, from paper to toilet paper and to facial tissues. But when the pandemic hit in the short term, however, we all had to reduce our demand for paper goods because of a supply issue. In regards to oil, however, it is considered to be far less elastic compared to that of other goods because of how much money, time, and equipment it takes to produce a single barrel of oil. Because oil companies require special equipment to produce oil, such as hydraulic fracturing and offshore drilling sites, when the prices fall because of world markets, oil producers cannot just simply stop producing oil because their equipment has no other use and will lose more money if it fails to produce.
Interesting. Now on to the concept of oil prices and their effect on the economy. Can you explain why the rather unresponsive supply and demand for oil has such a huge impact on world markets?
Yeah, why not? It's not like I have a class or anything. On to the larger picture of the effect of the supply and demand of oil onto the world market, and why the changes of oil price tend to be dramatic, is that most people within developed countries need to use oil to go to work, attend school, and even go to the store to buy basic necessities such as food and water. Because of that, we as a more developed country do not want to give up anything that we consume. Consumers are willing to pay more, and the only way to change that, consumers will change their behaviors regarding to stop driving, and such will be. If there is such a huge spike in the price to the point where consumers can no longer afford it. Furthermore, the profits earned from the gas prices oil firms use to create more oil fields and such, which is extremely both costly and risky. Therefore, a high oil price for consumers is a boom for the industry, but a bust for consumers who now have disposable income at their hands and therefore less money being spent on other things such as new clothing or entertainment, and the same vice versa. A bust for the oil industry is a boom for consumers. Therefore, the bottom line to anything is that the supply and demand for oil is a complicated issue and has many real-world consequences on consumers.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Wow, that was a lot of information. If you have a car, house, or anything that uses gas, oil, and energy, you should consider the effects of the price increase will have on you. Everyone is affected by this price increase, but imagine what would happen in the future. I know nobody would want to spend $200 on gas. We'll see you next time where we interview Mr. Pard, a farmer who is very interested about corn on the cob. I'm Bridget Duffy. Thank you for watching News 22.